different for me is this very, very basic idea that the President of the United States would reach out to a foreign power and ask for an investigation for personal political gain. While we may not agree, I hope you believe me when I tell you that I made this decision out of principle and out of a duty to protect and defend the Constitution. I feel that in my bones, and I will stick to that regardless of what it does to me politically, because this is bigger than politics.
That's Congresswoman Slotkin, and she is one of 30 or so Democrats in districts that Trump won who are now supporting impeachment. With him on board, it's just about a lock that the House of Representatives will impeach the President of the United States tomorrow, and by probably a comfortable margin. On the other side of the aisle, many moderate Republicans in the Senate could possibly make life a little difficult for Mitch McConnell. We already know Senate Majority Leader is in lockstep with the White House. McConnell has said in interviews that he isn't coordinating hand in glove with the president's attorneys in anticipation of the expected Senate trial. Some moderate Republicans like Susan Collins of Maine or Mitt Romney of Utah could, and I stress the word could, lead opposition if McConnell just wants to race through the process with minimal, if any, actual witnesses. Now, all it takes is 4 Republicans to join all the Senate Democrats, and they could block some of McConnell's plans. Joining us now to discuss the politics of impeachment, ABC News Political Director Rick Klein. And Rick, let's first start off with Congresswoman Slotkin and a lot of others. About a week ago at this time, there was a lot of thought that maybe it wasn't just 1 or 2 Democrats, but there could be a host. Not enough to derail it, but a lot that in those districts that Trump won, it was just too politically different for him. What happened for them? Calculation, love of country, whatever the case may be, that at the end of the day, almost all of them are on record as saying they're going to vote yes for impeachment now.
Yeah, I find it striking. I mean, these are newly elected members of Congress from places like South Carolina and Oklahoma and Utah. These are not people that hail from very blue parts of the country, very red districts, even in bluer states like a New Jersey or a California and Virginia. And they're all saying, with 2 exceptions that we know of so far, that, look, they were elected to Congress to do what's right and to uphold an oath of office and to do something that they feel is just the right thing on the policy and let the politics fall wherever it may. So, yes, there's a lot of publicity around the 2 Democrats, including the one from New Jersey who's expected to switch parties as a result of impeachment. But I think a larger story is becoming the fact that all of these moderate Democrats, virtually all of them, are lining up behind the Democrats on this and are ready to impeach the President of the United States tomorrow.
You know, we showed some polls earlier in the show, and still a very divided country, largely along party lines on the subject of impeachment. But in terms of what the public wants, they want to see witnesses by a pretty healthy margin, Rick, if you believe the polls. And they believe that at the House and the expectation in the Senate that the president will be given a fair trial. Again, divisions on party lines, but still by decent margins. To that end, what are you hearing? And CNN reported that the White House and McConnell are nervous that at least a handful of Republicans are not going to go along to get along in the Senate. Not that they'll convict the president, but they won't go along with an idea of a trial where there's limited, if any, witnesses or something that turns into a circus. They want an actual trial. How much of that is impacting the calculation of McConnell when he sits down with Schumer to make up the rules?
Yeah, look, Mitch McConnell doesn't have carte blanche here. He has as much leeway as his Republican colleagues let him have. And yes, if he tries to short-circuit the entire process, you could see people like Senator Mitt Romney and Senator Susan Collins and Senator Lisa Murkowski vote with Democrats. I don't think we're there yet. He's trying to craft something that keeps the Republicans as united as possible in terms of this process. But there's a lot of nervousness on all sides. This has been a time of, even though it has everyone retreating to their partisan corners, there's been significant angst about the politics of impeachment. And I feel like the conventional wisdom has shifted about 6 different times, even though the math really never has. And I do think that the poll that ABC News had out today that you referenced, more than 70% of respondents saying that they think the president should have his top aides testify in the Senate, that's something that suggests to me that the process actually has played out pretty well for Democrats, that the public, wherever they feel on impeachment, and they don't seem to have moved in large numbers to support impeachment and conviction, that wherever they stand on that, they feel like the president is getting and would get a fair shake.
And then we talk about the optics of it. And Rick, I want to play a soundbite. This from Lawrence Tribe, a Harvard law professor. And he said if this thing moves way too fast, if in effect what the White House wants comes to fruition, it's going to backfire on Republicans.
The majority leader is going to conduct this trial as though he's a member of the defense team. But the reason it may backfire is that an exoneration, if that's what emerges, by a Senate that is essentially rigged and fixed so that it's coordinated in this way with the defense, really doesn't clear the name of the accused. So that he will have been adjudicated fundamentally by the House of Representatives to have abused his office, abused his oath, and endangered the national security, and then blockaded any inquiry as though he were a dictator.
Rick, there's a fatigue out there from folks after what they saw on Intel and Judiciary. Is there a belief, though, that when it gets to the trial phase, like in Watergate, you're going to have an invested American electorate or viewing public that they're going to watch this thing, and because of that, more than just, right and wrong and how civics are supposed to work, there's a concern by some that even if you get what you want, Mr. President, you may pay a price for it if it looks like a show trial.
Well, I think that's one thing arguing for a more robust trial. And I think the public's savvy in determining, look, if the president has nothing to hide, he should go say so. And I think the efforts to undermine the entire process don't appear to have worked, at least according to the polling. And that's why we're going to see a trial. Now, how long is it? I think there's debate as to whether it's good or bad to be quite robust on what you want to do in terms of witnesses. I think Republicans, the fact that they're saying they're in lockstep with the White House, that works for now. But this president can easily get out of lockstep with himself.
And speaking of getting out of lockstep with himself, we went off the top and went into detail about what Rudy Giuliani has said now multiple times about what he tried to do, why he needed to get Yovanovitch out, etc. I would imagine that if I'm Cipollini here, I'm pulling my hair out because this guy's, the narrative seemingly being encouraged by the president is going against our own self-interest. How worried are they that they can't control their own messaging?
It's not even about worry. They wish he'd shut up, and they know that they can't make him. And it's frustrating to the White House counsel, the people in the White House that are trying to do what they can. But Rudy Giuliani is going to be Rudy Giuliani, and the president's going to have that relationship. I think anyone who works for Donald Trump for any period of time recognizes there are things you can control and things that you can't. And right now, Rudy Giuliani looks like one of those things that you can't. And it's just part of what it is to represent President Trump at this time is that you kind of inherit Rudy.
Lucky them. Rick, I appreciate it for you as always. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Richard.
All right, everybody, when we come back, we're going to take a look at a big story that's getting lost in all the impeachment hoopla. I'm talking about New York becoming the latest state to allow undocumented immigrants to get driver's licenses. The opposition, it's fierce, but so are the reasons why many argue it's a good idea.